Welcome back, Deadites and Ghost Beaters, and if you're new to the channel, I am Old Head Gaming, and Saber has a little bit of a habit of kind of picking out someone you would never, ever expect to get their own character. They did it with the launch when Ed Getley and his one line became a hunter. They did it at the end of Season Pass 1 when the Blacksmith and his 3 lines became the latest support character. And I thought about it as like, is this a theme that we're going to have one character that out of obscurity they pull out and they make a new survivor out of? And if I do, I had to think about Ash versus Evil Dead. And I gave us 6 characters that could be the obscure character that they make a survivor. I'm going to do this as Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. Each one of the seasons got 2 characters that are pretty obscure and have less than 2 complete episodes. So that way they can be, you know, just as moldable as anything you want to be. As Ed has got the power of the flashlight, the Blacksmith has got his very unique power of being able to craft. And I guess that kind of gives them a little more leeway to do whatever they want with the character. So it does kind of make sense to a degree. So let's take a look at Season 1 first. And I feel like the 2 characters for Season 1 that made the most sense for adding as possibly cool, unique, obscure characters would be one guy and one girl in this case. And actually, this is the only guy I added to the entire list. So of the 6 characters, the only guy is going to be Lionel Hawkins. Now, you probably remember Lionel as the runner of the bookstore. He's actually the one that summons Elagos using the Necronomicon and then eventually gets turned into a Deadite and killed by Ruby. But I think he would be really cool. Maybe they give him unique powers about reading the pages. Maybe he can be a little bit of a caster. There's a lot of cool stuff they could do with him. And then on the other hand, I feel like one of probably the most sneaky good characters you could add is Samara Weaving's Heather. Now, Samara Weaving went on to have a much bigger career a la her uncle, Hugo Weaving. You probably know him as this guy if you don't. Or maybe it's this elf. Either way, you probably know who Hugo is, and his niece, Samara Weaving, has had a great career since leaving Ash vs. the Evil Dead as Heather the Hiker from Australia, and I feel like that would be a really cool one. Maybe she had like an extra long stamina bar, like something cool like that because of her hiking abilities. Like, I feel like we could really do something cool with Heather. Now, in Season 2, there was actually quite a few I could have chose from. You want to make sure they're nice and obscure, and this first character actually had a little bit of time, probably more than she should have had to fit the obscure character, but I'm going to go with Lacey. Lacey, for me, is one of those characters that really makes a lot of sense anyway. She's not nearly as big as bringing in like Brandy or Dalton or Brock or any of those bigger characters that are still looming out there, but she did have enough screen time, mostly yelling at the top of her lungs and hoping to get back to her mom, Linda, too, and her dad, the awful Sheriff Emery. The second possibility would be someone that already has some voice files, we think. Now, that was on the original concept of what missions were going to look like, and that would be Professor Raymond Noby's assistant, Tanya. Now, Tanya was in like an episode-ish before she ends up reaching her fate in Season 2 at the very end, right before Ball's summoned back to this universe, and I think she would be interesting too. Gives us more of a type of sleuth character a la Annie, and I feel like they could do some cool stuff with Tanya. Now, in Season 3, there's actually quite a few, and I think this first one is actually my favorite choice, although the second one's pretty good too. So our first one is going to be Mariska, or you probably know her as the Naked Lady, the Masked Woman. She helped Pablo in the Phantom World be able to transcend to the El Brujo Especial, and I think would be a really cool character. Maybe she had additional powers with the knife, or maybe have a knife-based build would be really cool. The other character, I think, is someone I've talked about so many times. You probably already knew the answer, and that's going to be Lex. Lex is like the character I really want, the cyborg from the future, who shows up in the very last episode, and I feel like would have been really cool in Season 4 if they ever had one. Or if they do an animated series, I feel like Lex will be one of those characters that'll be freaking awesome and deserves to be in Ash vs. Evil Dead's concept of maybe the obscure Ed Getley / Blacksmith type character. Now, what do you think? Is there any obscure character you think they could pluck out of Ash vs. Evil Dead and, you know, make them that Ed Blacksmith type? I can't believe they're actually in this game, but they're actually really cool to play type of character. Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think is going to be? Or do you think they're just going to ignore everyone and go for the big hitters for the time being? For some reason with Saber, I highly doubt that. I feel like there's a curveball somewhere in there. As always, thanks for watching, and later, mates.